everybody. My name's Jan Rather. Like I said, I'm the Infrastructure Engagement Specialist in the Mayor's office. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you to Center of Life for hosting us. I'm going to bring them up in a second just to welcome folks to the space. Want to acknowledge Councilperson Barb Warwick's here. We've also got representation from Senator Costa's office. But really, we're here to talk about the Sylvan Avenue Trail project between Home Rule Street and Waldeck Street. It's a PennDOT funded project done in partnership with PennDOT, so appreciate their support as well. Real quick agenda, we'll go through the welcome and introductions. We'll talk about the meeting purpose. We'll do a quick overview of some norms. We'll give a quick overview for the folks on Zoom. I think we've got some folks there joining us. Then I'll hand it off to Mike to talk about the trail project. We've got the plans displayed up around the room, and we'll kind of break out after the presentation portion. Folks can take a look at that, leave comments there. For folks on Zoom, you can leave comments in the chat, and I think Laura can put a link to the Engage page in there as well, where folks can leave comments as well. So we'll just do a brief round of introductions. I'm joined by Mike Panzita, Project Manager in DOMI. Ashley Bryant is your Neighborhood Engagement Coordinator. She could not make it, but we do have Laura Tsutsui from the Mayor's office. She's our Digital Engagement Coordinator. She's running Zoom for us tonight. Jay Sabo, Project Manager, and then Crystal Magrino, Project Manager from PennDOT, joined by a bunch of other folks here. I also want to give a real quick shout out. City Channel comes to almost all of our public meetings, so thanks to Heather and Tony. They're recording this, and we'll get a recording up on YouTube and the Engage page. So if you want to share this with any neighbors, friends, you can do it that way. So the purpose of the meeting is to inform the public of the project plans between Home Rule Street and Waldeck Street, and then provide an update on ongoing construction between Home Rule Street and Hazelwood Avenue, and then we'll answer questions and collect comments. So some quick norms for the folks in the room. First and foremost is physical and psychological safety. I'll talk about that in a second. Really encourage you to listen to learn, be open to new ideas, assume the best intentions. That's both of your neighbors as well as the design team. If you have disagreements, if there's something you disagree with, we ask that you do so respectfully. Appreciate differences of opinion, and most importantly, be present, take in the information so that you can speak up when you see something you really like or really don't like. I'm going to use this opportunity to bring up Kiyomi to talk about the space real quick.
Oh, wow, claps for safety. I love that. So hi, friends. My name is Kiyomi Knox. I'm the social worker and community engagement manager here at Center of Life. So if you ever need some support here in the community, please reach out to me. But just some general housekeeping things. So our restrooms are just right around this hallway here, straight back. There are 2 accessible restrooms there. In terms of emergency exits, here I am as your flight attendant. We have one right here. And then we have another one just right down the hallway and to the immediate right. And then if really needed, right here in the back of the room, you see this open door. You can go down in the basement and take an immediate left. That will also take you outside. In terms of AED or any medical equipment, in case you need that, that is also in the back room here. And we also do have somebody here that's CPR certified in case of emergencies. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kiyomi, and thank you, Center of Life, for hosting us tonight. The person who's CPR certified is Laura on our team back there. In the event of emergency, get my attention. I'll be the person to call 911. If something happens to me, please, one of you call for me. For folks on Zoom, we ask that you stay muted. Use the chat function, and the way when we get to the Q&A session, so we'll bounce between questions in the room and questions on Zoom, so we'll make sure that we're monitoring the chat there for questions. And then if you have general comments, you can leave those in the chat or on the Engage page. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Mike to talk about the project. If folks have any neighborhood questions, neighborhood needs, I'll be here after. I'm also going to be facilitating the Q&A at the end, so I'm going to hand it off to Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. So I'm just going to really quickly run through the project. Then we'll probably have like about a half an hour of like open Q&A, and then we were hoping people could have some more like one-on-one conversations with us. We have the plans up over there. I'll kind of explain the next steps of tonight and moving on at the end of the presentation. So this project area here is highlighted in green or yellow, orange, whatever. It's the old Sylvan Ave city right-of-way. It was an open street, partially paved, partially kind of a dirt gravel street in the early 20th century. It was closed in the 60s due to a landslide right around here in this little bump. In the beginning part, close to Home Rule Street, there are a lot of street features that remain. You can see the old sandstone curbs. There's drainage inlets. There's utilities, water lines, overhead utility lines, that kind of stuff. So you do see that throughout the beginning of the project. And then just, because I wanted to touch on it, below this section, not highlighted, is the part that's under construction now between Home Rule Street and Hazelwood Ave right here. That is still open as a public street. We're doing what we call our neighbor way improvements. It's for more of a shared, slow street for bicycles, pedestrians, as well as vehicles, everything that uses our streets. This is just some background, just a historical picture. So from Tredegar Street to Home Rule, it actually was graded and paved as a street. There were sidewalks, there were inlets. Looked a little like this. We have this historical picture. This is past the section of Sylvan Ave that is closed, looking back toward Home Rule Street from the 1920s. So there was everything that makes something a street for quite some time, but then obviously it's been closed. Sure, yeah. This project was identified as part of our Bike Plus planning efforts. Our Bike Plus plan for the entire city identified areas where we wanted to expand our biking network. So that section is highlighted as a want, a need for the expansion. But what we're looking to do with this is a low-stress transportation connection as well as a recreational trail. Most of the area there is designated as greenway, so we want to make sure that there is greenway access for the neighborhood, kind of a trunk line for future improvements, which we've been working on with the council district. We're looking for kind of parallel lower stress connections to Irvine Street, and better access to our larger trail network leading to other places in the city, and kind of an expansion of our trail network. So we have about 2/3 of a mile that we're doing as part of the project we're talking about today. And then the on-street portion that's under construction now, that's another about approximately 1/3 of a mile. Just a quick, this is a scope of what we're doing. This is a cross-section kind of closer to Home Rule Street. You can see, so what we're putting in is a 14-foot trail. We are currently looking at moving the old sandstone curbs, which are partially buried. Some of them are sitting there. You can see them to kind of make that gap between the open street to this more recreational trail. And then we'll get to a more park or forest rail to trail feel later through the corridor. We are including landscaping, various plantings throughout. We are going to light the entire length of the separated bike ped trail throughout. Here's just a cross-section showing a little more of that foresty park trail look. We don't have curb throughout to reset. We're not going to pour curb as part of this project. We're just looking for ways to reuse that kind of historic stone. So this would just be the paved asphalt trail, still 14 feet in width. Since we won't have curbs, we'll do kind of a drainage swale to collect and slow down the water. And then we still do have plantings going on throughout. And just to recap, 14-foot paved trail, We have various furnishings, what you would expect on a standard trail, trash cans, benches, other furnishings. We're lighting it throughout, and we're doing landscape plantings throughout the corridor. And we are working with the council district on kind of maintenance of those landscaping improvements on an ongoing basis, because they do take work. Just to look at kind of what it looks like today, you can see on the left, it is relatively flat still, but it's horribly overgrown. This was taken in the winter, so it's a lot more overgrown, in whatever, spring and summer. I remember essentially having to have a machete to get through the first time I went through the area. We're planning on having more of what looks like on the right, a paved trail that goes through the greenway. Did I go two? No. Other pieces of the scope of work that are super important but may not be as visible as the other, the furnishings and the landscaping and all that. There obviously was a landslide out here. We are taking geotechnical borings in the soon future. We are bidding them out now. So we will be doing kind of slope stabilization, landslide mediation work. And there are several springs and poor drainage areas that we will be collecting the water, trying to put it into more green infrastructure and then outflowing in a less, erosive way. This is a piece that we are really looking for input on, so please let us know what the neighborhood thinks and what the general community thinks. Obviously, the trail kind of outlets here at the bottom at where Waldeck Street and Sylvan Ave have kind of a really steep, narrow switchback. We've been struggling, I think, to figure out the safest way to get people to connect from the trail to kind of Greenfield Ave, the Swinburne Bridge, which will have a shared use path on it, and the bike lanes down on Saline Street. What we started looking at potentially is to kind of dead end these streets here and here to so that the very narrow, very steep section would be for trail access only, essentially. We would still obviously maintain access to the houses on these two streets, but that's kind of what we're starting to initially look at. We definitely want to hear feedback. It is very difficult with, if you're familiar with this area, the street it's very steep, and it would be very difficult to expand the street to do a lot of trail improvements. So we want to hear back from you here today, online, all that, of kind of thoughts on that concept. It is still very, very early in the process. Like I said, we're going to do landscape plantings throughout. This is just at the Waldeck Street trailhead, but we're doing trees, shrubs, all kinds of things. Benches. You can see the lighting is shown here. At each side, we'll have bollards so that the general public can't drive through, but obviously we'll need DPW to get in there for maintenance, for tree pruning, all that kind of stuff, garbage clearing, emptying the trash bins, and all that. Obviously, if there's issues with the lighting, that kind of stuff. On the other side, this is at the Home Rule Street side, similar, we want to do some kind of nice trailhead improvement for the transition from the open street to the trail. Benches and trash cans throughout, and we are also talking to the same people that we're looking at for the tree and shrub maintenance to do some kind of ongoing invasive species mitigation, because it is really bad out there. This is just some precedent images on some of the materials that we plan to use. We want to use asphalt for the trail. It's the best for maintenance, for ongoing. It doesn't rut like the trail surface aggregate that you'd see on a more gravel trail. So that's what we plan to do for the trail itself. Benches and trash bins, City of Pittsburgh standard. It's the easiest for DPW to maintain. We do have a bunch of sandstone curbs on site that we'd like to reuse in some way. Right now we kind of have it, to convey the drainage near Home Rule Street, but we can look at other ways to incorporate it into the design. We've already started talking about it a little bit. We'll do standard lighting, again, mostly for maintenance purposes. On the right is the foldable bollard that we've been using at our trailheads. It can go down so that like maintenance vehicles can get through, but it locks up at the top so that the general public can't get through. Here's some of the trees we're looking to plant. Not a landscape architect, so I think they look nice. We do have a landscape architect on. She's designing kind of the layout of the trees and the other plantings, but they're all native species. They're all, I don't know, some of them flower. And yeah, we're looking to put a good amount of plantings throughout. Just a quick update on the portion that is under construction now, because we figured the neighborhood would be interested in that, and a quick update on like what we're doing as part of that project. Between Hazelwood Ave and Home Rule Street, we're redoing sidewalk and curb through the whole distance. We'll be repaving the street. We're putting in street trees down closer to where the houses are, and then we're doing kind of neighbor way treatments, which will be additional signage for the shared condition. At both of the intersecting city steps, we're putting raised crosswalks. Those will also function as traffic calming. And then at the end here at Hazelwood Ave, we're putting a pedestrian refuge island on both legs of the intersection for people who are crossing Hazelwood Ave. And as for where we're at now, you can see it out there. The sidewalk and curb is progressing. I think we're maybe about halfway done. They've gotten most of the portion that is doesn't have homes on it yet, or doesn't have homes on it complete. They're getting closer to kind of this more built-up section. Once we do, the contractor will work on one side at a time just to make sure that the residents have their parking still accommodated. Again, that we'll have people on, we have a construction manager on site, and you can talk to the contractor if you do live on the street and there's any issues that you see come up, or you can call me or Jan. After they finish the sidewalk and curb, then they plan to pave the street, and then they'll work on those traffic calming aspects, the raised crosswalks and the pedestrian island here at Hazelwood Ave. For the trail project, we're looking to hopefully complete the final design around the end of this year, depending on things like various approvals we need to get and permits. There are some home demolitions slated on the open part of Sylvan Ave. They're anticipated for early 2025. We have two representatives from PLI who can answer questions on that, if you guys want to raise your hands. And they'll be here for the general discussion. We're hoping to advertise this project for construction at the beginning of 2025, and to start construction on the trail portion next construction season. We do have an Engage page. Laura, I assume you popped that into the chat. We will also make these slides available on that Engage page. We have some like a space for public input. Additionally, there is a survey today, if you want to take it, that you have the QR code for. I believe that'll be up for a week. We'll add the link to that on the Engage page as well. And yeah, so I think we're going to do like a half an hour-ish of open discussion. And then we'll kind of let people look at the plans themselves. We'll have some more one-on-one conversations. Yvonne has, you can do Post-it notes for comments on the plans. We'll be taking notes. I'll be taking notes, and all that. So, yeah. You want to slide to the next slide, or we'll get to that?
Real quick, your neighborhood contacts and project contacts are myself and Ashley. Ashley attends the Hazelwood and Greenfield community meetings. She's a great resource for anything like non-project related. Laura, do you have something on Zoom? Is it a question or? Okay, we'll get to questions in a second. Because pizza's here and it's not getting any warmer, I think we should take a quick 5-minute break, let folks grab pizza, and then we'll start Q&A here. That will give Laura a chance to queue up some questions on Zoom. So if folks want to take like a quick 5 minutes, grab a slice of pizza, come back to their seats, and we'll start question and answer. We're going to start taking some questions in the room and via Zoom. Laura's going to get my attention. She already asked me. The first question is that whether the trail is no vehicle access. And it'll be no vehicle access except for maintenance vehicles. Laura, do you have a question on Zoom that you want to ask?
Yeah, one of our Zoom users wants to know about wheelchair accessibility on the trail.
So the question is about wheelchair accessibility on the trail. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will be maximizing, we will do our best to maximize wheelchair accessibility on the trail. Obviously, something like the Sylvan Ave side, that street is very steep, so it exceeds like the, I think is the microphone just for Zoom? I can speak up more. Yeah, it's just the camera. Obviously, Sylvan Ave itself is very steep, and there's nothing we could do about the existing street. But within the topography that we're dealing with, we are maximizing accessibility along the trail. Oh, do I double it up? Does that cover us? Cool.
Any questions in the room? And we'll start using the mic. We'll go here.
Do I need both? Has there been any thought of reusing the old Tredegar Street, because it's only about a 100-foot drop in altitude to go from where it starts near the playground and ball field down to Sylvan Ave, and it would be relatively smooth, especially for, like, say, less mobile people to get down. It is almost exactly halfway between the start and finish.
Is everybody able to hear that question? Okay.
Yeah, we've been talking about, I think, this project would be like a trunk line for future connections, not as part of, your suggestion we wouldn't do as part of this project, but I don't think anything is taking that out of the picture, and it's definitely on our radar.
Laura, a question on Zoom? No? Okay. We'll go here.
Okay, are we going to be modifying the existing Sylvan Avenue Street, meaning it's going to be a bike lane plus pedestrian driving? That's one. And the other one, the water runoff because of the sloping all the way almost from Waldeck Street. There's almost a sloping. My aunt used to live there, so we used to play there and drive there and the whole 9 yards. And one of the reasons I asked about the sloping on the trail, because it's going down towards Irvine Street, the way it sloped. And then you said there was a way to catch water periodically, just that one place, or periodically places. And when it got cold or going from winter to spring, the water puddles that used to be there, the ice just formed. It just formed across the road. So I'm quite sure that somehow, some way, you guys are going to have to deal with that. But then when you come from Home Rule back to Hazelwood Avenue, my thing is, how are you really getting that sloping for that water to drain off? Because I don't really see that many sores, to be honest with you, because I only live across the street and I go up and down and peruse it. So you put a brand new sidewalks in, and then if there's no proper drainage, what do we do then? So that's two of my concerns.
All right, so to repeat those, the first one was about drainage, or the second one was about drainage. The first one was about the bike connection on Sylvan Ave proper.
Yeah, so on Sylvan Ave proper that's currently open, no, the street itself won't change in its overall function. We're doing kind of our slow mixed streets treatment, but it'll still be same width as it is today. Nothing will really change. We're doing a couple of things for the raised crosswalks for kind of traffic calming, slow streets, like a slow streets mitigation, I guess, because we do expect there to be, once the trail's there, more people biking on the street. But no, we're not putting in dedicated bike lanes on Sylvan Ave or anything like that, not until we get to the trail, which will be just bike and pedestrian. And on Sylvan Ave itself for the drainage, as part of this project here, we are replacing, I believe, every drainage inlet that's on the street now, and we're rebuilding the sidewalk and the curb. So the sidewalk will drain toward the curb. There'll be a new curb which will set a good gutter line to convey the water into the inlets. There's 12 of them, I believe, that we're replacing on the street itself. On the trail portion, Jay can probably speak about this a little more specifically, but we're putting a ditch on the upslope side to catch anything that's coming from the greenfield side down. That'll be both a vegetated ditch to kind of slow down the water, capture it. There'll be a kind of a gravel like under drain that'll help to slow and convey the water. And then at the points where it is currently going over the hillside, we're implementing this thing called a level spreader, it's called, so that the water that does flow over there, it'll be slowed, and it also kind of spreads it out so that it doesn't have a concentrated kind of erosive effect. So we're matching, I would say, the drainage patterns of existing. We are taking advantage of the couple sewer lines that do run through from when it was a street. But where it does kind of have to spill over, we're doing everything to slow the water and reduce erosion. But we do want to capture all of that water that ponds and freezes, like you were stating. Yeah.
Next question. Anything on Zoom, and then we'll go here, back to Zoom, and we'll come up here.
Someone on Zoom wants to know, will there be crosswalk treatments at Sylvan and Hazelwood Avenues?
Crosswalk treatments at Sylvan and Hazelwood intersection.
Yeah. So this project's going to have a bump out for people crossing Sylvan along Hazelwood. We'll mark all those crosswalks, and then we are doing a pedestrian refuge island for the people crossing Hazelwood Ave. So in addition to marking the crosswalks, we'll have an additional pedestrian safety feature, I guess, at the end of the day.
And I think some of those drawings are on the Engage page. There's a plan update from fall 2023 that folks can look at, and I think it has that in there. Go here for the next question in the room.
Yeah, I just had two questions, actually. One is, and maybe this is what you asked before, when you're doing the kind of plan, and I know that there's not funding for this now, but when you're kind of just doing the planning for the Greenway section, will you be able to look at just designing where trails would be to connect back up to Bud Hammer? That's my understanding, is it used to connect to Bud Hammer, right? For folks who've lived here for a long time? So there's like trails going up to Bud Hammer. And then my second question, oh yeah, because you need the mic. So, and then my second question is about the houses that are falling down on Sylvan. And I know the neighbors had asked that. You know, we're doing all this to make this really nice street, but are we also going to be tearing down those houses that are just vacant?
So I'll let Mike take the first one, and then we'll hand it off to PLI for the second one.
Yeah, and sorry, are you saying that there are trails currently that go up to the park, or just? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those rights-of-way all still exist through there, so I don't think there's anything preventing us from putting money toward a project like that in the future. I think it would just take funds, and yeah, I don't see any reason not that it wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the question? My name is Robert Columbus. I'm the demolition supervisor for PLI, and
Dave Green, I'm the director of PLI.
and you guys are interested in the property addresses that we're tearing down along Sylvan Street? Correct. Along Sylvan? Yes. The addresses are 4608, 4610, 4616, 4618, 4656, 4662, and 4664 Sylvan Street.
Are some of those on the left side, like if you're coming down, are some of those on the left side of the street?
I would, no, they're all even numbers, so I would say they're all on one side of the street.
They're all on this side? They're all down there. Could you speak? I'm sorry, I don't have that other mic, so. Could you speak to the steps, though? The steps also, where lead down to Menard.
So the steps would not be under PLI, that would be DPW, or is it you guys, DOMI? DOMI. Yeah.
Would you mind giving me a hand here? On the orientation, I want to say if they're on the right or the left side of the street. Of course. Would that be the left side of the street that we're talking about?
I think that's the left side, the river side, I guess I would call
That's
it.
the river side?
Yeah.
Okay, these are all on the left side, close to the river. Okay. The numbers again are 4608, 4610, 4616, and 4618, 4656, 4662, and 4664.
And as mentioned earlier, those will not start until the end of this year and hopefully be done either by the end of the year or early next year.
And the folks from PLI will, once we wrap up Q&As, if folks have specific questions about home demos, you can talk to them. We'll go question in the room, and then Laura, I don't know if there's a question on Zoom, but raise your hand when there are.
I have a couple questions and a comment. My first question is, where is the community involved in making the decisions about what's going on? Is there an advisory board that's made up of people from the Hazelwood community and the Greenfield community and the Rent community that are part of all of this discussion and decision-making? My second question is, this really is a historical area. You know, home rule is called home rule because of Gladstone. And so there should be some sort of historical markers along there, as well as historical markers about how that trailway was used by the steel workers who worked in the steel mill to get to Greenfield and to get to Upper Hazelwood. And my final question is, I live on Gladstone Street. And this over here in Hazelwood, because Gladstone turns into steps that go and continue into Greenfield. The traffic has been a lot on Gladstone Street. It's a very narrow country street. There is no sidewalks. There are people that live there that have to park their cars on the street. Oftentimes, you know, there's been large trucks coming through, and it's very difficult if you're coming up the street because of the terrain being kind of hilly and then levels off and then hilly again, that you can't see an oncoming car. And when the workers are finished working and they're coming and leaving, they're going at a very fast speed. And there's something has to be, they have to be reminded that this is still, they're in a community, this is under construction, these roads are narrow, and really, there have been times that when I go to pull out of my drive or someone's coming up, if they're coming up Gladstone from Hazelwood Avenue, you literally cannot see. And one time we had, fortunately my daughter, a younger person, was driving, had to back up on the street in order that this large, I think it was some sort of crane that came through. So, you know, the construction crew needs to be reminded that this is still a community. But if you could answer the other questions, I'd appreciate that.
And I will write that down, sure, because it's, yeah, it's separate, but I will, it is also.
You live on Gladstone Street. Yes. How is your drainage system on Gladstone Street? Do you have any drains towards up there?
We have, actually, on our property, there's like a catch basin, and then we're right across from these steps that go up.
Yeah.
So right our house, we have one right up there. There is a source system right there. Water always collects there. Because I think they did try to clean it recently, maybe like in the last year. But there's, we're so hilly.
If you two want to connect after this, I want to make sure that we're answering the questions as much as possible while they're fresh in my mind, fresh in Mike's mind, but do encourage you two to connect on that. And if there's a relevance that you're asking the question, we'll come back to you. So the first question I think you had and I can answer is, that's part of the reason we're here tonight, is to get community input and feedback. You obviously have some great ideas, and so we definitely want to connect you to be able to share some of that input with the team. And that's, again, part of the reason we're here tonight, but I love this suggestion. And then the other clarifying question I wanted to know is, I know there's some construction on the school here as well. Are you talking about construction workers from the Sylvan Ave project or from the building? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll connect with the construction manager on site. And yeah, in terms of historical markers, I've never done those for a project before, but I don't know, Nick, Nick's from PennDOT Environmental, have you done those on projects in the past that would be able to, I'm not opposed to the idea.
PHNC, when there is something that's designated historic, we haven't gone through the Section 106 process.
Yeah. But we'll, yeah, and I don't think there's like a specific, yeah, but we've done it, you know, I'm sure the state has done it in the past. We'll put it down in our notes, and yeah, I'm not opposed to it, yeah.
And Mike will follow up with the construction team to get that addressed. Did we answer all of your questions? Okay. Laura, anything on Zoom? Yeah. Okay.
There's a question about notifying residents when bringing a crane, or I'm assuming they mean any other kind of big, heavy equipment through the neighborhood. What does that notification look like?
Yeah, there is a construction manager on site. They usually try to get in touch with the various neighbors. I think for this one, they probably were focused more on Sylvan Ave itself, less so Gladstone, so I appreciate the reminder to kind of get a little bit wider in their net. And I will talk to them about, you know, these narrow, steep streets and construction vehicles going through, just having a little more advance notice and making sure that they need to have people flagging or whatever to add that in.
And before the project goes to construction, we'll also provide updates on the Engage page as things get closer to construction. It's, I think, 6:45, 6:48 right now. I want to make sure folks have time for one-on-one questions. Still take a couple questions in here for about 10 more minutes, but if folks could stay to like their number one question so we can get to as many as possible, that'd be really great. I'm going to go here, and then we'll come back up here.
Thank you. Number one question is a bit of a build on the earlier one about community participation. And apologies if I missed this during the initial part of the presentation. Is there a plan for future of these town halls at the very least, whether that's monthly, quarterly, what's the kind of cadence? Or do we just wait for our neighbors to let us know, hey, by the way, you missed a flyer, come by at this time if you can? So there's what we're required to do, which is, these kind of pre-construction or pre-design feedback meetings. Mike can talk more about what is scoped in the project, but I'll let Mike talk about the specifics, but the best way to stay informed, and we always use Engage PGH to publish updates. Mike will know more about like what is actually scoped in terms of public meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is the only public meeting we do have scoped for, at least with the design consultant. I think that what has been helpful for me in past projects is for when there are like neighborhood meetings for the leaders of the neighborhoods or the RCOs, the neighborhood groups, to reach out to like Jan so that we can give project updates on a more regular basis. Because I don't think every update necessitates a public meeting, but I think we can give more ongoing updates so that people can stay on top of things, if that makes more sense.
And again, this is like a design feedback session, so before the plans are finalized or goes out to contract, we would there'd be an update on the Gauge page that lets folks know that we've reached that point. Go here and then here.
Thank you. Mine's on signage. Being that we're going to erect islands at the intersection of Hazelwood Avenue and Sylvan Avenue, signage, mine is on signage above where it says speed bump or up at the bend curve as you're coming down, maybe signage that says intersection narrows or any of that sort, because the speed bumps are slowing them down some, but by the same token, they're still coming over it pretty fast, and even some of the trucks. So I think the signage, more signage to cause them to be aware, because the road's going to narrow, that might be a help.
Thank you, and we'll take a note of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, from the communication standpoint, you all could reach out to the Greater Hazelwood Community Collaborative, which our board chair is right here, Reverend Murray, and also Sonia Tillman over at the Hazelwood Initiative. Certainly continue to communicate with Center of Life here, and we can help get the word out, because we really do need more lead time on some of this stuff, because it was, this morning we were kind of surprised when we showed up here. And so it would be helpful to all of the neighbors if we had a little more lead time.
Yeah. So we will make sure that Ashley's communicating any updates. I also want to thank you, everybody who registered. If you walked in and did not register, did not sign in, if you want to leave your email address, I have a Sylvan Ave email list that I try and use. It is fairly small email list, so we want to get more folks on that to be able to send more updates about this too. So please make sure to sign in, leave your email address. You have a question?
Hi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that a good portion of the trail that is there, we'll call it a trail that's there, is part of the Hazelwood Greenway, and also that it was designated, the whole area was designated a city park. I believe it was designated the very last day of Peduto's administration. Now, I know that some city parks close earlier, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, all city parks close at sunset. So my question is, why are you planning on doing this big man-made metal type lighting in a city park?
I don't know the status about it being a park. I do know it is a greenway. Councilperson, I don't know if you know if it's a park. Okay.
The distinction is I can't figure out the distinction between a greenway and a park. So I kind of treat it as
It's a process that has to go through, and there's a naming process that the community gets involved in before it officially becomes a park. So the vote that was on like the last day of Peduto's last days initiated that process, but it hasn't moved forward since there and then. So it's not officially a park yet.
So it's held up at a naming process. It was shared. We will try and find out more information, and we'll get it out to you. And then
Can I follow up? Yep. The reason I ask is because it seems like by doing the artificial lighting the way you're going to do it, that you're planning on that being open 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, most of our trails we want them to be safe for people to be able to use them all the time.
In Europe, they use lighting that is built into the ground. It's worked through motion detectors, so that the whole area isn't lit up like light pollution that doesn't disturb wildlife and stuff. So would you consider looking into that and maybe incorporating that instead of the giant street lights?
Yeah, we'll note that. We The city obviously adopted a dark sky ordinance, so that at the very least those will be, so we'll be following those standards. Yeah, exactly. So the lights should be, forcing the light down and not just follow. Exactly, yeah. And we do have a lighting designer on. We can send that information on to her as well.
Okay, I think we've got about time for 2 more questions. You've been waiting, and then we'll go to you. Laura, if there's any on Zoom, just let me know, and we'll try and get them answered too.
Ray asked one of my questions, so that was good. But my other question is the intersection with Greenfield Avenue part of the scope of this project? And if not, why not? Because that's the other end of the trail. I mean, that's where people are coming from or going to if they're using this trail. It's like one of the entrances, and it's very dangerous. And we're finding out, I mean, Ray can speak to this too because he lives on the 300 block of Greenfield Avenue, but it's been very difficult to get adequate traffic calming on that particular part of Greenfield Avenue. And it seems like we could be sending cyclists into a death trap if we don't address that somehow.
So as part of the Swinburne Bridge replacement, that intersection is going to be redone. It'll be signalized as part of that project. So we've been working with them on that. So I think at the intersection, we'll have that project focus on that because they're going to be completely redoing that intersection. And then between Greenfield and the trail, we are looking for input on like how to safely get people along Sylvan Ave on that really steep part. That's ongoing. It's really early in the process, but we do have a lot of constraints there. I mean, you know how the topography is. It's really, we can't expand the road. There's a lot there. So that's still really, really, really early in the process.
My understanding is, though, that the Sylvan Avenue, I mean, it keeps getting pushed back because of the Charles Anderson and
Swinburne.
Well, the Charles Anderson is what pushed the Swinburne Bridge back. And so now it's what, there's not
2028 is the earliest that the Swinburne Bridge.
So it seems like this would be finished a lot sooner than Swinburne Bridge. So there's got to be something in the interim.
Yeah, I can talk with them. I mean, that's also a federally funded or state oversight project, so maybe we can incorporate some improvements as part of the thing that'll lead into the work that they're doing. So yeah, I think we can do that.
Laura, was there anything on Zoom? Otherwise, we'll take one more question in the room, and then we'll kind of break for individual questions.
Thanks. So talk of this trail and project, I think it's been like over a decade of different ideas for it. I'd love to just hear, you said PennDOT was funding a lot of this. I'd love to know just where's the funding for all of this and where's the funding going to be to maintain this? It's so many invasive species. I really hope the landscaping holds up and trash collection on all of that. So what kind of expectations can we have for the trail? Will this be plowed in the winter? Can I commute on this year round? Like, what should our expectations be?
Did everybody hear that question? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah, so in terms of the plantings, we've been working with the council district and we're trying to get dedicated funding for that. We're trying to get dedicated funding for that on an ongoing basis for both the invasive species management and the maintenance of those plantings. For like garbage pickup, that would be DPW. Plowing, would be like any other. That would also be a DPW thing. We'll flag it. I mean, we'll add it to like their plowing list, I assume, and they would do it like any other trail. So yeah, we want this to be like any other major trail that people have access to.
I guess is it a street? Is it a trail? Like is it both? Is it something new?
No, I mean I'm considering it like the Eliza Furnace Trail or like the Junction Hollow Trail going through the park, like a multi-purpose paved trail, yeah.
And I apologize for the folks on Zoom. My computer just died. I'm going to try and get that up, but you're not missing anything. One last quick question here, and then we'll really encourage folks to leave comments, talk to the project team one-on-one.
This might be a DPW thing too, but I just wanted to mention that there's been extreme dumping in those areas as well. So where I guess folks are coming in from other communities, dumping tires, dead animals, I mean, all kinds of stuff that we've cleaned. We clean every year. And those are the kind of things that we pick up. And it happens, all the time. So
Thanks. Yeah. We will talk to folks at the city about that. I know that there are folks in DPW that lead cleanups that look at dump sites in particular. So if you want to share any more information about specific locations, you can send that to me and we'll get connected through our resources.
We would hope with this project there would be more eyes on, more people going through, so there's less of an incentive to do those kind of illegal dumping activities.
All right, I'm going to close up this section, encourage folks to leave comments. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you to Center of Life for hosting us. Really do want to hear from you. Make sure you sign in so that we can be in touch, and we will get a recording out to folks in the next week or two. Thank you all.